Operational Efficiency in Action, Smarter Monitoring at Scale. The presenter is Mr. Paul Maroney, who is Vice President Sales for APAC at Tag Video Systems.
Turning up today and listening to this. It was quite interesting, the previous session. I'll try to speak a little bit slower because the Australian accent is always a little bit challenging, so I apologise. I'm from Australia, I look after the APAC region. Previous session was interesting, and one of the interesting points that I got from that was also the transition to IP for uncompressed being 2110 or JPEG XS. So that's something that's coming, and something that needs to be considered as well in this whole workflow. I'm mainly talking about the streaming side because that's extremely important in India, and I'll cover that more in a second. So basically, why am I here talking about monitoring at scale and operational efficiencies? Give you a little bit of background, a little bit of research that I did on India. India has a highest projected growth rate of OTT services or OTT streaming services amongst other major countries. That's a bold statement. But as mentioned, with the amount of content that you have, the amount of streaming services, yeah, it's there. The ability is there. So there's a projected CAGR, annual growth rate. So it's a projected annual growth rate for OTT streaming services of 24.4%. The nearest other country is about 21%, so it's quite high in comparison. And that's growth rate from 2025 to 2030 with a projected revenue of $25.04 billion or over 222,000 crore. So that's a bit of money that's projected to come through the economy for streaming services. So what are the key drivers for this growth? First of all, it's, as you would all know, it's the high smartphone adoption. India is a mobile-first market. You like watching content on the move. Data is quite affordable. I would say it's probably the most affordable country in the world for mobile data, and also the rate of mobile data. It might surprise you because you think it's slow sometimes, but I can guarantee you that the quality that you have here has always surprised me, even with your normal phone services. The expansion of 4 and 5G networks and low-cost data to a wider audience, and the key thing here is that it's starting to include the regional areas, okay? And as part of that, leading into that, is the regionalised content. So platforms are investing heavily in local and regionalised language content, broadening the consumer base. So hence this growth is being driven by this ability to reach that wider audience in the regional areas and the multiple languages within those wider audiences. The other thing is people are moving away from subscriber video on demand to things like ad-supported video on demand, which is free, and also FAST, which is free ad-supported subscriber television, right? So streaming television, sorry. So these are all the drivers for this growth in streaming services in India. So what are some of the major challenges today with this monitoring? Monitoring a streaming service, how do you do that properly and make sure that you are delivering the right content, B, the quality to the consumer, and at the pace of change that's going to occur, but also the business enablement, making sure that you're not losing customers to another streaming services because you're not providing that level of quality to that customer. So there's a lot of competition there and a lot of things that you need to consider in how you monitor these streams. These are the different points of monitoring in there. So you can see that the event, the source feed, packager, CDN, which is your content delivery network and your different packaging. How do you monitor these signals going to from your encoder or from your packager to your CDN? We all know there's multiple profiles that are going. How do you know that each of these profiles are there, are in time, are correct? Are you monitoring those? Or are you just relying on the CDN to say, oh, we lost profile 3, you know, that sort of thing. So these are things that you need to consider when you're looking at monitoring. I'll look at one of the case studies. This is something that I was directly involved with when I worked for a channel partner in Australia selling to Foxtel. So what were the challenges? They were migrating from SDI. They had a 1200 by 1200 SDI router and migrating their services to IP across. They were also moving at the same time, but also across a main and a backup site. So one of their challenges was how we're going to monitor this at scale with IP. So this is where TAG came into it. That's why I'm here as well. I'm with TAG. And they need to do this in an IP environment. They're managing thousands of live streams. So literally, we sold them over 2,000 stream monitoring points that they can monitor. By adopting TAG software-based monitoring, Foxtel achieved unified monitoring across compressed and uncompressed. That was their main thing. They did also at that point in time go to 2110, and they wanted the one platform to be able to monitor both compressed and uncompressed sources, their streaming sources, what's going out to the market, what the consumer at home is seeing as well. They were monitoring the set-top boxes as well in IP. So they wanted this efficient monitoring that optimized CPU, memory resources. The other thing they wanted was software that sat on a COTS-based platform. So they had 28 very powerful Dell servers which supplied all their monitoring requirements. This gave them the full end-to-end visibility to simplify their operations and reduce manual effort. They're monitoring these 2,000 channels with only a few people, a handful of people. They're also using other operational efficient workflows like penalty box monitoring and things like that within their facility. So how to save sources in monitoring end-to-end? TAG uses resource sovereign monitoring tools. We have one platform that monitors, as I mentioned, both compressed and uncompressed. We can take virtually any input from 2110, JPEG XS, NDI, WebRTC, SRT, Zixi, RTMP, Dash, HLS, all these inputs, and we can also provide these as outputs as well, mosaics. But we analyze, we get all these inputs, we analyze, we visualize as well, and create everything like that. So in the middle here, you'll see adaptive monitoring. That's one way that we conserve the compute resources. By that I mean that we actually don't necessarily monitor every frame. We can monitor once every 3 or 4 frames, and that conserves some of the compute resources, which means that you have more efficient monitoring and more efficient use of resources. The other one is things like penalty box monitoring, where you reduce the eyes on glass. You set up the parameters, you set up your, we have over 530 parameters that can be used for detection, and you set up those parameters, and if something goes wrong, you immediately get alarmed. So that's one of the other ways of doing it. Summary. The cost of not monitoring is churn. As I mentioned, you can easily lose viewers if you're not providing that quality of service, and hence loss of revenue. Cost of inefficient monitoring grows exponentially with scale. I mentioned that India's going through this phase of growth. You need to be able to scale appropriately. And with TAG, you can easily scale. Put another server, add more services. Our cost model is based on inputs. We don't charge extra for, you want to monitor more inputs, that's fine. You want more outputs, it's basically included as part of that whole package. Smarter, simplified, unified approaches reduce risk, saves on resources, and also enable this confident delivery. And confident delivery is what we do. We provide that quality of service for you, or the monitoring of that quality of service for you to be able to deliver the content to your end user. So, delivering incredible viewer experience with tag monitoring, visualizing over 500 types of errors and guaranteeing confidence. We reduce the workflow complexity by working with a solution that's IP native. We don't work with SDI, we're IP. And applies to all type of media workflows. We enable flexibility and growth by choosing over 100% software solution working on COTS-based hardware. So, and aligning your operation to your business requirements by being able to scale, being able to supply a solution that's suitable for your workflows and your facility. That's basically it. It was short and sweet, catching up a little bit on time. Any questions? No? We're on the Origin stand. I'm here. If you would like to, oh, you've got a question? Sorry. May have given you the one with the flat battery.
Hello. Sir, I am Shivakumar. I am business head of Amrita Television, which is a regional channel in Kerala. So my question is, sir, now you are speaking about the various methods to improvise the quality of content in delivery. Okay. So one basic problem that I am facing now is, my entire production system is in 4K format, but I telecast in SD. And we are the only channel in India which runs 4 different type of content in one channel itself. So once it comes to digital, we have 4 different digital platforms. So how we can, now everything is done, all the system is taken care by manually. So is there any solution where I can rely on the system through in order to activate my process right from the production post-production aspect of 4K, converting to SD in satellite, and again improvising the quality of telecast in the digital platforms. That too 4 different contents in 4 different digital platforms. So how can I rely on the technology in order to capture my delivery on a better scale? Thank you, sir.
So the delivery side of it, you would have to manage the delivery side. We would be able to monitor every aspect of that. So that's not a problem. At every point of your workflow, whether that's from playout to screen, we can monitor those points. We can even tell you whether you are delivering the correct content by using something called content matching, where we use the SMPTE fingerprint, SMPTE standard fingerprint technology, where we take a fingerprint of the video and a fingerprint of the audio, then whether it's going into your encoder, your transcoder, your packager, at every point we can actually check that vision, make sure it's a correct vision, and make sure that that is a vision that's going into your output by comparing it to that first frame that we took a fingerprint of. So that's something that we can do with that, with your signals and guarantee delivery. We don't care whether it's SD, HD, or UHD, 4K, etc. We're handling it like another signal. The only thing that we do care about is when you start looking at the compute resources required. So more compute resources are required for 4K versus HD versus SD. So that's the only key difference. But from our platform, we don't care.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? No. Alrighty. Thank you very much for listening to that. As I said, kept it relatively short and sweet so we can catch up a little bit on time. But no, thank you. No, it's been great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Just take one more minute. Could you mind going down there because we'll hand over the token of appreciation. Thank you, Paul, for that session. I'll just ask Manoj Madhavan from Nürnberg Messe to hand over a token of appreciation to Paul for being here and taking his time and taking us through this session.